Hello everyone, thank you very much for coming. My name is Alex Farber. I'm web editor of Broadcast Magazine. I'm joined today by Andrew O'Connell, who is head of Factual News and Current Affairs for Channel 5, where he's been since around 2009. We're just going to have a discussion today about some of the content that's worked for Andrew and perhaps some of the ideas that he's looking for. We'll talk for about 30 or 40 minutes. And then I'll throw up open opportunity for anyone to ask any questions, so do be sure to bear that in mind. And hopefully we'll have a good debate and we'll learn some interesting things about Channel 5 and help you get some of your ideas away in the best way to do so. So the first thing I was going to kick off by asking you, Andrew, was how important is factual content to Channel 5?
I think factual content is at the heart of Channel 5. We have a very broad sort of mix on the channel with all our American dramas. We've got Big Brother, we've got factual entertainment programs. But I think where we make a difference and we cut through is through our factual programming. So yeah, it's pretty important. And if you look at the output, particularly across peak time, 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, there is a lot of factual programming there.
I mean, you are known. I mean, that perhaps there is a perception that the channel is quite an entertainment-focused channel, in part brought about by the introduction of Big Brother. But there's more to it than that. And you think, I mean, what has the impact of Big Brother been?
I think Big Brother has, given us a whole opportunity of getting a whole new audience in. And it has also given us a bit of a halo effect, which I think we're still seeing, and we're 3 years in. It's just one of those incredibly once-in-a-generational life, propositions that come along, and you can have in the summer you have 3 months, every night, at 9 or 10 o'clock, delivering you over 1 million young people watching you with a 8, 9, 10% share, is fantastic, because through that we can then educate the audience on the other great content we've got, because we find that we're not exactly a go-to channel, but people watch what we have on the channel and they think they're watching another channel. So it's a perception thing as much as anything. But I think Big Brother's got a long way to help us change that.
And how has that impacted the kind of shows that you're looking for? Has it had an impact indeed? Or in what way have you evolved the kind of shows that you're commissioning over the last few years?
I think where it's helped us evolve is the 10 o'clock slot and for the younger audience. So that has created an opportunity where we can get the audience, because normally around about 10 o'clock everybody heads off to digital. And you'll find the terrestrial landscape sort of just dies. And we've had, that's created an opportunity, and I think there is still an opportunity for us to find younger skewing content to hold that audience with us and to keep them there. And we have things like My Secret Past, which is celebrities that go back on journeys of, looking back at issues that they suffered or struggled with as teenagers, and they unpack their own story while going on a forward journey, looking at what's going on in the world today with things like dyslexia. It could be care homes, it could be anorexia. So it's all issues that are in the playground or come from the playground, and they're perennial, they never go away. So that's worked well for us. Celebrity Wedding Planner is another one that's done extremely well for us. We've done Botched Up Bodies recently at 10 o'clock coming out of Big Brother, and that was a fantastic success. We're doing more of those. So I think we've been able to, off the back of that, have some good strike rate at getting younger audience. Not everything works, but we certainly had a good handful of things. But then it's also helped us while we've got the audience there to let the audience know that there are other shows, that we are diverse and we've got other things coming up at different times and different days. So we would promo quite heavy. Coming in and out of Big Brother, the other shows across the schedule that are coming up, which they, would hopefully want to watch.
And how do you divide up the sort of schedule and the slots that are available? Do you have it? Is there clear delineation between each time?
I think for us over the last couple of years, we've identified, if you look at the slots from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, so 8 o'clock across 4 nights of the week on the other channels, it's very, very female. you've got either your soaps, or you've got your Hollyoaks, or you've got your Coronation Street, EastEnders, Holby City. You've got all your property, makeover shows, baking on BBC Two. So it's quite female skewed, and that's where we go male, and that's where we've identified that 3 nights of the week. No, 4 nights of the week. The one night that we go female or broader would be where there's, I think it's a Tuesday night when there's football on, I think, on ITV2. And that's when we'll do things like Benidorm ER, Emergency Bikers, and much broader shows. And apart from this, so 8 o'clock we normally go, and a lot of our special factual goes in at 8 o'clock. So our history, our engineering, our lads and dads, we've got so many wheels on our channel, Ice Road Truckers, Pickfords, and so we can go on and on. So that, all that kind of stuff will go at 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock's much broader. 9 o'clock's got to be big talent, big propositions, like we got the obviously the hotel inspector, we had the restaurant inspector, and those sorts of things. And then 10 o'clock is where, along with Big Brother, we can go slightly more. We take more risks at 10 o'clock and we go younger.
So what was an example of a riskier commission?
Well, a couple of years ago when we first were taken over, and we were, it was before Big Brother came onto the channel. We did a docu-soap called Candy Bar Girls, and I thought it was, very proud of it. I thought it was a very good show. It wasn't quite what everybody's expecting. They thought it was going to be salacious. It was about lesbian relationships and people who hung around this one bar in Soho. So we used that as the precinct, and we went out and we were just exploring people's lives and how, how people were, relationships, loves, work, in 21st century Britain. And that I think had made good impact, but it didn't quite cut through at that time. And I believe that had we done that off the back of Big Brother, I think we'd be in series two or three now. Mm. But it's a timing thing as much as anything.
And when you talk about some of the specialist factual, which I think you're talking about 8 or 9, was it?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. So you said there's many spokes to the wheel. I mean, perhaps you could sort of flesh out what those are exactly. Are there broad subject areas that you sort of categorise and that you look for?
No, I think they're quite specific. Monday nights we do our cop shows on Monday nights, or we do the gadget show, or we do things like Classic Car Rescue. And Classic Car Rescue is a good example of something that was a co-pro for us that worked really, really well for us last year. It's very lads and dads. It says what it says on the tin. We had 2 chaps who had never been on terrestrial telly before. We cast them, so we found some new talent. We also made a couple of the shows in Canada because of the co-pro treaty, and I was a bit worried that wasn't going to work. But because it was the format is what people came back to. It didn't really matter where it was filmed, and I thought that was encouraging, because sometimes, people like to watch the whole series based in one, in the UK, for example. But this felt like we could go to other areas. So in the next series, if we want to go elsewhere, if the budget allows it, then we can travel, because the format, is set. We'd have history coming out on one night. It's either Wednesday or Thursday night, and that is in the form of reveals. We have had Heroes of the Sky, which is drama docs. We do true stories, and I was talking to Alex earlier. We experimented now. We did a series, a cross-genre. So it was engineering / history called Beat the Ancestors, which is on 6:10 on a Sunday night. It started on Sunday, and that was us trying to have a look at how we can move history on. Bit of a competition at the heart of it. Can we get a group of enthusiasts to rebuild some of the greatest inventions of our time? The Roman ballast, the first fire engine, etc. And they supersize these objects, and they've got to try and they have a task to see if they can make them work. Fantastic films. So that's the kind of thing we've been doing. We've been trying to see how we can kind of cross things over. We do wildlife, of course. We have nature shocks. We're doing something with Nigel Marvin. We're doing a whale adventure with him. We do our extraordinary people, medical docs. We've done loads of them recently. We've got a few more coming up. So yeah, they're quite. We've gone through specialist areas.
And where do the opportunities lie? Perhaps is there any areas in which you're not getting the ideas that you would like to be receiving?
yeah, the next big sort of factual format. You know, that's what we all want. And I think that never goes away. Yeah, and now with Ben having arrived, I think his focus is absolutely on that. So, you know, he likes consumer affairs. So it's like the From Hells from ITV, the Roger Cooks, you know, consumer issues, family, home, money. How can we make those into formats? Pop docs, very interested in doing one-off pop docs. Very interested in creating seasons, you know, for content. So very popular. It's almost like, you know, some of those big, you know, we put something to development on Riggers Wives, Aberdeen, up in Aberdeen. So we're going quite populist and quite broad now. So there's opportunities for all those sorts of areas. But, you know, it's all in the title for Ben. So, you know, you just got to come up with a really snazzy title that just says what it says on the tin. I took him an idea the other day, 64 Stone Wannabes. And he's like, oh, love it, yeah, let's do it. And, you know, it's as simple as that. And it's a kind of a no-brainer what it is. These are supersized people who are very happy in their skin, and they're three different people trying to achieve three different things. Now, I'm not saying, you know, send us fat everything. I'm just saying as a title, it was very, very, you know, it was a very clear proposition. Another example, just as an example, so, you know, when people are thinking just how we can move things on. Ben thinks, and I think he's right, that we have a lot of good stuff on the channel, but it does feel quite samey. So we've got Benidorm ER, we've got Emergency Bikers, we've done Brain Hospital, we've done Botched Up Bodies, we've done Making Faces. They're all good precinct medical shows that are kind of showing different sides of medicine, but at the cutting edge or at the quite extreme. We've got trauma doctors coming up. We're doing a series on nurses, the new heroes. You know, now that all the boys are coming back from war, these are the new heroes, the frontline heroes of the NHS. So we're going to do a series on that. But so you know, there is a sense that we have quite a lot coming up. So, for example, we were talking about traffic, road rage, etc., which is a good area. You know, we all suffer from it. Well, sorry, I do. Can't talk for anybody else, but occasionally, you know, we all have our moments on the road. And we got from just doing road rage into by the time we finished the conversation with this production company, we got to the number of what really irritates people now and what's getting worse and worse, and that's potholes, right? So we come up with this idea, Pothole Britain. And out of that, we can then, you know, you can go and find, there's a great nucleus, you know, in the idea to go and explore and make a program or a series. So that's how I encourage people to think. So, you know, where you just think it's the precinct, don't. What is it about that precinct? You know, examine it further. Look at it from different angles. How can we come into something that feels like what's at the heart of what we're talking about? And then we can open it up. I hope that makes sense.
I think so. And in terms of getting things away, I mean, you've got a few strands, you've got extraordinary people, you've got revealed. I mean, are those a good places to start, you know, with initial ideas which then might potentially broaden out into an entire series? Or are you able to use those strands in that way?
Quite possibly. I think with the revealed, they pretty much World War II, Tudor history. Sometimes we do a bit of Egypt, ancient Egypt, but they're all stories telling us something different about the war. And what's worked for us recently on those is finding good personal stories, like we did Britain's Secret Schindler, and we've done other stories like that where it's about particular people who've done great things within the war. So for that to branch out, more difficult. But what we did do last year, we did World War I Tunnels of Death, which averaged 1.7 million across the two programs, which is fantastic. And that was an event, basically. There was the biggest archaeological dig happening in Messines. So that was happening. We filmed that, and out of that we made a two-parter, and we told the history of that side of the war. And that did great guns for us. Extraordinary people. I think there's every possibility that something could come out of that. We've ended up making 2 or 3 films with a couple of the characters. You know, we had Hayley, who's the young teenager, and there's the other woman who was on the other night. Who had the big, I can't remember what it is, but we've had 2 or 3 where she's lost her leg and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So they can come, you know, they could probably have 2 or 3 out of them, but I don't think anything that I've seen has come out of any one-off. I think what we've done with the genre is we had a look at, well, you know, medicine works for us. What else can we do in other areas that tell a similar story that can get the same audience in? And that's how it's grown. It's evolved more than grown out of that.
You mentioned talent just then. How important is talent to ideas that you receive?
I think no, not always, because I think if you watch the channel, it's characters, it's the story we're going to tell, and we're broad enough, and we have enough subject areas and genres that we cater for and to, that it's not the be-all and end-all. I think if you're going to make a specific type of program, yes, then, you know, talent is key, and we're looking for new talent, and we don't necessarily, we wouldn't have somebody shoehorned in just because they're a great name. So I think it's the proposition, the idea, and if the talent is an expert and passionate about what they do, that's what will work for us.
And is there something that makes something a Channel 5 idea as opposed to something that might be taken to ITV or to Channel 4 or to Sky or even the BBC?
There is a lot of crossover, and there's a lot of stuff that you watch and you think, oh, that would be amazing. But, you know, if you watch that fantastic Jane Treer's doc recently on Claridge's, brilliant. But I don't think it would have worked on our channel. You know, it was absolutely spot on for BBC audience, upmarket old, aspirational, and, you know, that's exactly the right home for it. I think Aylesbury could have worked well for us, the ITV series that's on at the moment. But I think the most obvious comparison would be what we did with Chris Tarrant on Extreme Railways last year, because at the same time Portillo was doing his railway journey. And when they talk more specifically about gauges on the rails and stuff like that, we're just out having a romp. We go to the most extreme places in the world where it's been the most difficult conditions to make a railway, and then we go on that journey. We talk to the people. We kind of get a sense of why it's so important for them to have it. And then we talk to all the people who made it along the way, and we tell the history. But the history is told, you know, at key moments. Not to take over the story, but to kind of just help enhance it along the way. And that I'd say is the key difference. Although Portillo does a journey, it's very, very different to the one that we would do.
And how do you work? I mean, with so many shows on the go, do you prioritise certain ones? Do you, I mean, is a certain one seen as your flagship projects?
I think it's quite difficult because we're such a small team that... and when I'm talking to individual producers or, you know, at seminars like this, it's for me it's the idea, and it is quite broad, and when they come in, so it is pretty much judged on that. I kind of, it's difficult to kind of think of any other way of how to prioritise. I mean, if there's something that we're specifically looking for, then yes, you do a shout out and you'll assess the ideas that come in. But a lot of the time, the ideas that are rolling in or people that are talking to me is through conversation. That's when that's when they normally happen.
And what about budgets? I mean, how do you decide if you're going to put a lot of weight behind a particular project? Is it whether our idea needs it, or do you think we're really going to back certain ideas?
Yeah, I think our funding model is quite flexible. More flexible than most, I would say. So we have AFPs where we do the advertiser funded program. We do co-pros, commissions, and so all those 3 models. It just depends on what it is that we're doing. So if we're doing a docusoap where we're doing be it nurses or police interceptors, we buy those in bulk, and they would come out at a certain price, and it goes up. And it just depends on what the project is. If it's going to be a 9 o'clock travel log with Chris Tarrant, you are looking at a healthy budget. But if it's going to be a one-off history, then we have a stock price of normally 75,000, because we would expect the producers to come on board with that top-up money, which 9 times out of 10 they have, and they do. Extraordinary people, would be around the 100,000. So, we cut the cloth to fit the project.
Do you hear enough from new producers? Do you tend to work with the same production companies? Do you like to work with emerging businesses? Do you mind where the idea comes from?
No. I think that's our currency. That's what we do. That's how we trade. and your idea is your currency basically. And I don't, it never bothered me where the ideas come from. I think it's difficult to kind of filter through everybody's ideas because it's just there are a lot to process. But when I do process everything eventually, and good ideas. I put something, the 64-ton wannabes was something I got in 2011. Because I was looking for something through my system, and I knew Ben wanted something like that. And I just saw it there, and I just said, this is what we're after, isn't it? He said, yeah, so I've resurrected that. Chris Tarrant, Extreme Railways, was something that when I first got at Channel 5, I identified it as a great idea of how we could do railways, but it took that long to get it off the ground because that's how long the cycle took before we were ready to do those sorts of projects. So yes, I've worked with companies that, the biggest and the smallest, and I've still worked with a company that I gave their first commission to. And I put a very experienced exec producer with them, Simon Ford, and he still works with them because he likes them. He has fun when he does it, and he could work with anybody he wanted to, but he chooses still to work with these guys. So it is the idea.
You've mentioned this is Ben Frau, the new director of programmes, a couple of times. So he started a few weeks ago now.
3 weeks ago.
So I mean, there's been a couple of ideas you said he's been responsible for, or certainly looking for. I mean, what has his impact been? Have you got a slightly new direction, or will you be looking for certain things as a result of his joining?
I think it's still, it's still very early days before we get a, full strategy, program strategy from Ben. But I think his initial thoughts are to go a little broader. He thinks we are a bit too male. He's not going to change it radically, but I think it's going to be very targeted and getting those, those much more broader propositions, which I've spoken about already. Yeah.
And Factual will continue to be an important part of the
yes.
makeup of the channel.
Yeah, docs and Factual entertainment. Yes, definitely. But I think it's going to go away from certain genres into much more popular. Broader, yeah.
And you touched on funding briefly. When it comes to co-productions, at what stage should funding be brought on board? Should people come to you with funding already attached, or is it good to sort of are you able to work through that with indies?
Yeah, we are. It's the most. It's so tough, I think, getting co-pro for indies because, indies go out there and they'll talk to everybody out there and they'll get the initial interest, and then they always 9 times out of 10 want an interest from a British broadcaster. So it's tough to get everything lined up for them. But if it's a must-have idea, then it's a case of yes, we'll have it. Well, we want it as long as I think you're open and upfront with the broadcaster. I don't think there's an issue with that in terms of how long it's going to take, because all we need to know is that, okay, we want it now, but we want to commission it, but if you tell us it's for next year, we need to just know that A, it's going to be relevant next year, or whether the idea doesn't really matter about when it comes out because it's such a strong idea, that we know which pot of money it comes out of and the scheduler can know. And then you have that time to do it. So I think it's just, we understand, that it takes longer and it's not as easy, to get everything lined up. But I think it's just open and transparent, I think.
And what's the best way to go about approaching you and making a pitch? Have you got a team?
Catch me when I'm running out of here. I run fast. Yeah, we've got a team. There's Michelle Chappell, but she's about to go on maternity leave, so you'd have to wait to see who's going to be covering her. We'll announce that in a few days' time. Simon Rakes, he looks after our extraordinary people, our history, and I think more the specialist Factual. I would send stuff to him, or to me, and I filter it through anyway. So they're part of our team. In the Factual entertainment, there is Greg Barnett, and there is Ian Dunkley. So those would be for the bigger propositions. Your extreme fishing, your hotel inspector, the new wife swap stroke, new family money format you're all going to come up and give to us and not take to Channel 4 or someone else. And then Steve looks after Factent, and then I look after all the Factual. So between all of us, those are the people that you can filter everything through. And it's normally by email. Send stuff in by email.
And are you seeing any sort of, as part of the team, are you seeing any trends emerge in the factual space? I mean, I know you've talked about going broader, going more populist.
Yeah.
I mean, are those trends that are coming through anyway, do you think, and you're trying to capitalise on? Is that what audience is looking for?
I think it's a very good question. I think what's come back and what is still around is people want to have good stories, well told. So it's that good old-fashioned storytelling. I think we did go through that whole cycle of the Y-SWAT super nanny, etc. And that seems to have been out of the limelight for a while. So we're probably close enough to starting to explore that again. But it's not the 8 o'clock. I think, how clean is your home and stuff like that. I don't think it's as soft as that. It's got to be bigger, more ambitious. I think there's an opportunity for that to come back. But, still good old programs, well told, still, I think it's still, what's out there, but what people are still, enjoying and wanting. Mm. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Andrew? Yes, gentleman here.
I think you mentioned Roger Cook at some point.
Yes.
Are you interested in those hard-hitting investigation slot programs?
I think when we say hard-hitting for us will be different to what hard-hitting on the BBC is. Yes. And I think it's all those consumer issues. What are the things that, piss people off? People being ripped off, scams. We have our cowboy builders, our rogue traders, but this would be much more broader, in that Roger Cook vein.
Do you need a name like Roger Cook to anchor a show like that?
No, I think Roger would be a bit old for that now. I'm not sure he can run. I mean, with all due respect, sorry, I'm being hot. Oh dear, I'm in trouble. Wipe that out. I think we'd be looking for somebody new. I think that's a new talent opportunity there. Yeah.
Yes, lady here.
How do you feel about introducing new talent? Because I know you mentioned about the 2 guys that did the show before. What is it that you need to have from that person before you'll take that risk, or is that not even relevant? It's just whether they have that personality.
I think so, yeah. I think it's the personality, I think it's the passion, I think it's the expertise, and I think it's marrying it up to what the channel needs are. I think the most important thing for everything and for everybody is just knowing what the channel is. Because I know that I get a lot of ideas that have been here, there, and everywhere. That's just the nature of the beast. Because one idea, might be wrong for somebody else, but right for somebody else. I understand that, but I can see an idea that's tired, that has been circulated, and there's nothing worse than somebody saying, "Great idea for BBC Two," and it lands on your desk. I know it happens, and if it's a great idea, I'll still have it, but I'll certainly make sure that they know that they should take it off. If you send to Channel 5, it must be that. I think also, I think we've worked hard over the last few years, and people are coming to us with their best ideas, and that wasn't always the case. And I'd urge everybody to kind of, think about us as the first port of call. We're a flat structure. We work fast. We are a good bunch of people to work with. And we put out some incredibly good stuff, I think. Sorry, I didn't answer your question, did I, about talent? We just want great new talent.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. With an idea that comes to you, and it's got a good foundation and basis of an idea, but it still needs a little bit of work, would you work directly with that person that created it originally?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've commissioned stuff, of one-liners, and then I've also got stuff that's kind of been worked through, and I know that every document is a selling document. That's what it is. People will get the information off the internet, or they do the research before they send it in, but that's just the basis. Because the reality is when you start filming, or you start looking into turning it into a film, it is going to change shape. I've yet to see many that don't. Very few do. And that's just the reality of what it is, because the time and effort is all about, the concept, the idea, and then from there you just knuckle it down to what is absolutely feasible and what's out there.
Okay. This gentleman with the red jumper.
Hi.
I do. Jeff Lee, BEL. I just wonder if there's any particular co-producers or co-production companies that you prefer to work with, or companies that you prefer not to work with.
I was putting myself in it earlier. Now you want to, you're going to try and who wouldn't I work with? I have to say that I've had a couple of difficult productions, but I would not work with them again. I would always work with people where the right idea is. But what I would do next time is I'd make sure that whatever the weaknesses that I had identified don't occur again.
I meant more with co-productions in terms of other companies like Sky or CBS. Or
Oh God,
that's
okay,
what I meant,
yeah.
really.
Oh, sorry. There's none that we wouldn't work with. I think as these things always work their way out, it's just the sensibilities and who are the channels who do the right kind of stuff that go into what your channel needs are. So we work with the Smithsonian, we work with Nova, we work with Nat Geo America Discovery, loads in Canada, Shaw Media, Discovery Canada. We work with France, Germany, Australia. We don't mind where the money comes from, because we're interested in the idea. And as we buy a UK license, we can't, we're not interested in any other territory, and that's what's also good, I think.
Yes, lady in the black and white top.
Can I have two questions? One is how much, for instance, does other channels that you work with influence how you allow a piece to develop? One of the issues I'm having is that there's two documentaries I'm putting together about what's happening in Australia, and word absolutely doesn't get out because of the control of the Murdoch press, and also because of the relationships between the channels over there and the channels here. So how much of an issue would that be for Channel 5? The other question is that when you're a duty of care issue, what do you use as a guide to navigate how you exercise a duty of care when you're doing documentaries on extraordinary people or situations, and when people sometimes are vulnerable? I mean, for instance, there was one that really stuck in my mind where you had two lads who were from working class backgrounds. It was a BBC Two. Two lads from working class backgrounds who, one was in Oxford, one was in Cambridge, and they were trying to, be the next Uber in the Conservative Party, and made absolute fools of themselves. But for me, it was painfully obvious that both of them had special needs. And the people who would have spent more time with them, filming them, it would have been very clear, but it still went out. At what point do you make a decision about that, and what is your guiding factor?
Okay, we may have to come back to you may need to remind me on the second one, but the first one, if I'm getting it correctly, but help me through this, is that you've got two docs obviously based on in Australia, and you're trying to get money over here, or you're just trying to find out whether we would do something, or are we worried about what Murdoch may think?
To get them broadcast over here, we're actually producing it ourselves.
Yeah.
Because to get it commissioned, we probably wouldn't get it commissioned. Yeah. Or spend so much time and effort trying to get it commissioned. Yeah. We may as well make the piece and then see how if we can get it broadcast here.
Okay.
But for instance, you've got things like Home and Away, you've got Neighbours, you've got you've got the rescue programs. You've got so much footage that's coming out which would not pass muster both with American or British equities and Performance Union for personnel. You've got so many stories that are coming out of Australia that will not get coverage, and one of the things seems to be that the British companies possibly at not wanting to upset their relationships they're having with the Australian companies.
So what you, yeah, well,
I'm not sure. That would probably be on a much higher level than me. I mean, in terms of what we and how we go about stuff, you
it's
know,
not an issue you've ever come across.
it's not something I've ever come across. So,
And in terms of duty of care in some of the more sensitive, extraordinary bodies and that you tackle?
well, I think, I mean, I can't speak for the BBC Two film, but I think with us, with the duty of care is very high, and that's across all the shows. If I, you know, even if we're doing stuff, you know, in our medical dramas, and we're doing stuff with soldiers in prisons, etc. We are very sensitive to that, and we have lawyers who look at who look at that, and compliance. And then myself, who has the ultimate editorial control on the programme or in the department. And that is always, for me, it's a case of, you know, a right to reply. What are the consequences going to be for this person? Are they, you know, have they been properly briefed of what they're doing? And, you know, are they aware of the programme, which they would be anyway? And then at the end of it, if I think that actually, it's not fair on them, but you know, all the processes are, the boxes are ticked and we won't have any problems with Ofcom, etc. If I feel that actually, what's the point of it, because it's just going to make their lives a misery and nobody's going to get anything out of it, then I would make them change it or take it out. But I think that comes down to a personal thing at the end, and a company, you know, how we want our programmes to, you know, be broadcast.
Yes, there's a lady there in the hood.
Just very quickly. Do you have any limit on what you're looking for? So you've talked about taking one-offs. I know you do three-parters. You're obviously looking for longer strip series. Do you have a preference? And how essential is a taster tape when someone's pitching an idea to you?
I think the limit would be normally for a first run. If we're talking about a series, it will be about 6. Sometimes it's 4. Just, you know, I mean, every time a proposal comes in, there's always 10 or 20, and you just kind of think, well, maybe there's 3 here. It's got to fit what the idea is, I think. And sometimes, you know, don't overstretch it, but we can always open it up. You know, we can always say we want more because we love the territory. You know, just always be true to what you think you can deliver. Taster tapes, always great. Because, I mean, characters will sell the programme. It's just, if they are that remarkable, the characters, and you just think it's going to cost me nothing to go out and film them, then that's going to get you over the line much quicker than trying to explain it on a piece of paper.
Yes, lady here.
Forgive me if you mentioned this at the start. I wasn't here at the start. I'm wondering if a sort of self-employed filmmaker came up to you with an idea, would you take them less seriously than if they had made the step of becoming a company, a production company?
No.
Nice, short and sweet. And I've got another one for you. It's sort of related, I think, with what the other Australian lady was trying to say, which, well, not trying to say, but what I got from it. Are there any constraints on politically that are you in any way constrained politically on topics that you sort of get, sort of, okay, these things cannot be covered? Because as a small-time filmmaker, that's always a question of, you know, we always think, oh, I wonder if this got rejected because of because of what it's trying to say.
I think, I mean, that's a very fair question. You know, certainly at Channel 5, it would, being a very commercial broadcaster, you know, if we're going to go around making hyper-political programming, I'm not sure how many people are going to come to us when they would expect to find that on BBC One or BBC Two, possibly, yeah, and Channel 4. So those sorts of programs, you would have to be lifting the lid on something pretty big. It's very, I think it'd be, you know, we don't, as far as I know, and in my experience, there isn't anything that stops us doing anything other than, you know, where does it fit, why does it fit, what's it saying, and what's it going to...
Nothing since Northern and Shell acquisition from a strategic point of view.
No,
Nothing's off limit.
No, there's nothing off limit, and you know, I run the news as well, and sometimes, you know, we've had a few stories that have broken, and we've had to run them, and we do run them. But we, you know, I would always let the board know what's going on, because why wouldn't you? You have to. I would anyway. I think it's, you know, people have to be prepared about, their right to reply and also know about what's going on.
Yes, there's a lady at the back.
Are you specifically looking for concepts, formats, or pre-made content, literally, to fill our airtime that's maybe coming with sponsorship attached?
I think sponsorship, is something that is becoming increasingly more. I wouldn't say more important, but advertisers are looking at how they can get more bang for their buck, and this is a way that they are looking at more and more seriously. And for us, I've done Kelly Hoppin's interior, Super Harrier interiors, the business inspector with Hilary DeVay. They were all 1 hours, and they were done through AFP. So yes, if we can, find concepts and get ideas in, and we can get big sponsors and brands to pay for them, yeah, we would actively seek them. And we've got a department who look after that. And sometimes ideas come in, and you just think, well, this is perfect for a Wix or a DIY place, B&Q, and then we'll try and we would take the idea and try and get some money in for it, because they're always talking to us about added value.
Sorry, which department is that?
AFP, his name's Saj. I can always let you know who it is. We send the ideas into us, basically. I mean, if they go in through him, fine, but they always end up with us. They always come back to us.
Excellent. The gentleman next to you.
Yeah, I had a question regarding talent and history. A lot of history programs lately have been sort of presenter-led and focused on going on some sort of journey, but are you open to sort of more traditional types of history documentary that are sort of archive and interview based? If you watch our history, 95, 96, 97, 98% of it is that. Thank you.
Yeah. Chap here. And then I think we've only got time for a couple more questions.
Wondering if you're also interested in transmedia content and how it, or say cross-platform content and how it meshes with a program, or are you really just thinking we want the program, anything outside it is kind of not interesting?
I've for a long time thought that's the holy grail. The next step is how do you get something that comes from the digital platform and marry it to television. So you do it in the reverse way. But it's very, very difficult, because I think at the moment, the way I see it, could only happen in a few genres, a few areas. And that could be, either, Annika Rice kind of in search of something, or possibly a game show, or possibly, docusoap that you can do stuff during the week online and then throw to a program on the weekend. I don't know what the form is, but I think everybody is actively after that. Would you think that's...
To a certain extent in some instances. But do you have budget for shows that have digital support, or not particularly? I mean, are you interested in people bringing ideas that have an app attached to them, or a website?
Yeah.
You think so?
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of our, but that's added value for us, and there's, it's a commercial benefit as well to the channel. Yeah.
Oh, good. Right, there's this lady here, and then I think we better wrap up.
Yeah.
Programming. Do you know that you want 15% on turbo, 20% on history? I mean, do you do that kind of split, or do you just work with the kind of programs that are available to you?
There is planning, because we know exactly what we've got and what what we have to put out, because we've got all the licenses for. With our strands, we would plan. So we'd know we want 6 to 8 reveals, 6 to 8 extraordinary people, perhaps 6 to 8 single documentaries. We have it all. Look at all the stuff that's done well that we want to recommission, and then from that we look at what event pieces we want to do. So we have a sense of what we want to do and what areas we want to evolve, what areas we want to pare back on. So yeah, we do plan, but it's not as rigid as we want this, that, and the next thing, because ideas are constantly flowing.
But it's also audience-driven in a sense.
Yes.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it is audience-driven in the sense of what if we have 5 hits, we want them to come back. So that means 5 other things don't necessarily have the opportunity. But those 5 other things that could be just brilliant, we may still commission for the following year. Or we push stuff out to bring it in. So there are kind of, there is flexibility within the schedule.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm sorry, everyone, we're out of time, but thank you for coming, and many thanks indeed to Andrew O'Connell. And,
Thank you.